We're a diversified group, number of business areas. The ones focusing in Africa is a high voltage transmission company. Been operating since 1987 and around the African continent since 1994. Probably the number one player in the installation of high voltage electrical systems. We also install and develop and build renewable energy projects like wind farms and solar parks. And then we have another services business in Angola which services oil rig waste called AES, Angola Environmental Services. We have joint control of that business. Look, for us it's been a very positive experience. You know, we've now got a footprint in 21 countries. We've taken kind of $10 million of work to $100 million over the last 6 or 7 years. We've got a good reputation and we've built our brand significantly for a long period of time. You have the benefits, in my view, of a population which is 960 million, which will soon be, 1.6 billion. With that kind of population growth, and with anticipated that 65% of them, of all the groups, are going to be living in cities, in huge mega cities, the need for infrastructure is just immense. I mean, already you only have 1 in 4 with access to electricity, but when you then have concentrated, tens of millions of people in a single metropolis, you cannot provide services. So we just see that supply-demand mismatch accelerating and the need for infrastructure increasing. And then you're just getting general, improvement in conditions and wealth, and less people below the poverty line, and more expenditure on, let's just say, middle-class items, and that brings its own benefits of growth. South Africa doesn't have a real oil and gas industry. We've never really had exposure. We've had the development of Sasol, but for the rest we've been net importers of petroleum for hundreds of years, as opposed to being an exporter. If you look at our experience of what we've seen, certainly in Angola, the sophistication of the oil and gas industry and the kind of investment bets that are made. And I used an example of one of the oil majors who for 15 years invested $18 billion in a single concession. Now, those are numbers that, as South Africans, we have got no idea the size and the scale of what the global oil industry means and what the international oil companies represent, and how substantial they are. We misguided when we think commodities. We think that the South African commodity players are big, but in context of the world's oil majors, that they don't really play. So obviously the first is, I'm going to say self-belief in essence, and our view that you have to have a substantial footprint. You cannot operate in the continent without having a local presence, without having a local partner. Very, very critical. You cannot hope to navigate the waters of a foreign country where some of the legislature is not as codified and case history as you would have in a sophisticated first world country. So first for us is you have to have the local presence. And then you have to remember that every country that you're operating in, it's not homogenous. There are many different groups. The north and the south of Nigeria are completely different. The differentiation there in the DRC, I think there are 40 tribal groupings. So your ability to navigate that is a lot more complex. You can't go in there arrogant. You have to understand the cultures, what's there. And then you have to be cognizant of external shocks, things that aren't on your risk register. Items such as Ebola. Never in a million years would we have anticipated the impact that something like Ebola had. Not for people or for health or for millions dying, but really what it did to stop air traffic. International bankers wouldn't fly in for projects, consultants wouldn't be there, electrical consultants to conclude jobs. So it really just slowed growth dramatically for a 6-month period. Those are the kind of challenges you face. And then, critical to all of that is I do have a sense that a lot of people worry about the macro challenges, like government change or leadership or revolts or coups, which I think is less significant than real risks such as just currency volatility. The kind of local currencies depreciating in the dollar, and if you haven't structured your contracts and your businesses correctly, you're kind of eroding your investment base at a significant rate. So sometimes we're more focused, or some of the investors are too focused on big things, when it's just, what's your currency going to do today? You know, that's more real, tangible, you know, not always manageable risk, but as opposed to, there's nothing I can do about a coup in a country, you know, that's not nothing to do with that. So. We do believe that you have to be in multiple of geographies, that the only way to manage your risk is by having, you know, lots of operations, each with their own peaks and valleys, and that'll give you some semblance of a kind of a logical line, either up or down, you know, that you can try and manage the line as opposed to each geography. And I think that's very, very important in our strategy. Is we don't want a single reliance on any one country, and we have to resist that temptation to make sure that we're completely committed to the strategy around it. Around kind of advice to companies, where you just got to do a good job. You have to stand by your product. You have to view this as you're making 100-year bets here, and your brand and your reputation is what goes with you. And you know, we started small. We did a good job. We were invited back. Sometimes we won, sometimes we lost. Sometimes it took a while before we created some sustainability around it. Even now, you know, we're as good as the last job we do. And my advice is just, like every product, like, don't look at it as a dumping ground. Don't look at it as a place where I can pass off my old material or cheap material or do a subpar job. It's just not like that. And you have to, again, and with that, work with kind of local communities. You have to show the communities in the places you're working that you're doing good for them. I mean, we did a project in Zambia, and simultaneously as part of that, we helped fix the kind of water pumping system for the local clinic. I think we struggled more with the water pumping system of the local clinic than to build a huge substation. But kind of the lesson is really try help, just make a difference, and use as many local contractors as you can. You know, we use local construction companies, use local civils guys. There have been times that you had to step in and manage a process, but I think then everyone feels that they're getting benefits, and it's not a international coming in with their teams and flying out and taking all the benefits.